We're back to Neil Haley show, and I'm going to get a series of interviews with the stars of Boneyard. And I absolutely have been blown away from the beginning to the end of this film in so many ways because it's a tragedy, but also it shows a lot of characters going through lots of challenges. So I'm excited to welcome to the show right now and Asif Akbar and Vincent E. McDaniel. Asif is the filmmaker, and Vincent E. McDaniel, co-writer and star. Guys, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Great.
Hi, Neil. Great. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks.
All right. So tell me how this all worked. So this is really interesting. Vince, I think you did an amazing job in your performance. Because I mean, it just really, I feel, is a breakout performance in the character that you played in this film. I just wanted to tell you this, but I didn't know you were the co-writer as well. Kind of delve into how this happened.
What is, as far as the story, or?
Yeah, just how it all developed. We'll get to the story in a second, but just more about how did this develop into this movie?
Well, just go back to my past a little bit. I always, like some of us, we have times in our lives where we're not always on the straight and narrow. So during that time, I was able to take some of my experiences from that and other experiences and incorporate them into the story. And as we got deeper into the story, from the story that Hank Bird and I came up with, and once it got to Asif, we as writers, it all started to develop more and broaden because of everything that we brought to the table and some of the other stories that we saw out there, and we kind of incorporated some of the the beats and everything from other stories into it. So it developed into what it is today.
Yeah, and we took inspiration from many other true crime stories that are out there, but the central story was definitely inspired by the West Mesa murders. And being in Albuquerque, Vince grew up in Albuquerque most of his life, and he's known some of those victims personally from that case. And when Vince and Hank first did the first draft, I think it was about maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah,
so when Vince brought the script to me, it was about around 8 years ago when we met and started collaborating on other projects. We knew that this was an important story that had to be handled properly and with the right timing. And so over the years, we, obviously took some theatrical licensing into making the story our own, but with a blend of all sorts of different true crime stories, mostly related to serial killers. And what's interesting about this story is when the real West Mesa murders investigation started in 2009. It became national. FBI got involved. They started looking at other similar cases with missing persons cases, murder cases, serial killer cases, and they were able to broaden the suspect list and actually solve other cases along the way that would have never been looked at. And like you were saying, this is a real life horror story. To me, this is more horrific than watching a ghost movie or a vampire, werewolf, whatever, monsters. These monsters are really living amongst us in our society, which is a global issue right now.
And Vince, I can't believe you grew up in this, Vince. I mean, kind of. So, meaning you saw this firsthand and you heard about this. So, how did you kind of put into the characters, Vince, in your writing? Let's delve into at least the premise of it for people to understand. It's based on specifically a true crime, but also you added a lot of other storylines in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, just being in New Mexico and understanding the culture and some of the things that create pitfalls for individuals, such as drugs. We have a big epidemic right now with the fentanyl and all of that. But back then, it was crack cocaine and heroin, and those monsters, those drugs just took over a lot of people in the area, and unfortunately, those people were in those situations that they can't come back from now, can't, evolve from, because they're no longer alive. And
And then how it affects the families and the people involved, even from the law enforcement side, the
yeah,
investigators, they dedicate their lives to solving these cases, and how it even affects them is something we don't normally talk about.
You have these dirty cops, you have this serial killer. So you add so many components. You have true crime, you have criminals, and then you have the criminal element also with the police. So you're hitting a lot of areas that are very, very successful, Vince, in your writing. Think about it. True crime, serial killers, everyone wants to see that. Everyone knows about dirty cops and some of these storylines of the latest hot really shows right now. And then add that component of the real humanity piece to this whole situation. And everyone's frightened if their kids ended up being trafficked.
Absolutely.
Everything's there in this movie in that way with an all-star cast. So tell us a little bit, Vince, about your character and then some of the other people that are and some of the other characters in this film.
well, as far as my character, Graham, he's an individual just trying to maintain control of his situation that he created. And as you can see in the film, it's a struggle for him. And
He has other motives, obviously.
he has other motives, and all the other characters come into play, and it's quite a it gets convoluted a little bit when there's so many people involved, but at the end of the day, you kind of see who's who. You see who's good, who has the heart, who's in it for what, and at the end of the day, you see who's who in the film.
And what I noticed really is how well Mel Gibson played his character. And that added the serial killer component. Talking about the profiles of other serial killers. There was a certain Netflix show I absolutely loved because it really profiled all the serial killers. You want to really know what gets in their mind. And again, you're going to be shocked. This is not what you expected. And Asif, I think that was part of the whole thing to make it so thriller-like that you can't believe it is when the finish. We're not saying anything, but
Yeah. All I can say is I think the audience will be leaving the movie being more scared than they were going into it. And I think that's the reality of even the case and these cold cases. You wonder, it's definitely scares me. So I hope it, translates to the audience.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that you may not be aware of, we're girl fathers, we're girl dad. We got the girl gang. I got 4 daughters. He has a daughter.
I have
So
3
that's part
daughters.
of the whole thing.
That frightens the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I hear anything that hurts my kids, I want to kill them. Literally hit them, hurt them. I want to get them. And that's the problem. We can't do that, right? It's
Right.
a situation if like I'm a divorced dad and I hear certain things that something else happens. I wish I could react to the level that, some people can, but we have to have that humanity of seeing Mel, what Mel was going through. And also, Curtis Jackson was going through, you were going through, and family. That's the powerful part of this. And then the storylines of the women who were sex trafficked, their lives. You really depicted a lot of humanity, things that I could feel in my heart. And then knowing, you could have I have daughters and they go walk into a carnival and they're taken. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Which is in reality, it's a big issue. I was told people, kids get abducted from Disney World, and it's a very common issue. And that's more scary to me than going and swimming in the ocean with sharks.
Yeah. And as a parent, the main thing, and as you stress, you can't even imagine this happening. So the biggest thing that you would want your kids to have is awareness and be aware of what's around you. And that's one of our biggest goals in this film, is to raise awareness.
All right. So Boneyard will be available in theaters when next Friday,
July
right?
5th. Yes.
July 5th. Perfect film to see during the 4th of July weekend. Thanks again, guys. We appreciate it. And we'll be interviewing more people from Boneyard, but you did a great job. And I think it's a breakout role for you. We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and I'm just so excited to welcome. I've screened this movie. I really enjoyed the whole conversation of the last interview I got to, but now today I have one of the stars from Boneyard, Brian Van Holt. Brian, thanks for stopping by, and we're going to talk Boneyard. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about specifically enough how you got this role. How did this happen? And again, your character has a very, very a past that really has to figure things out based on a tragedy. And even though you're a police officer, having to try to kind of mix in your true feelings, what you truly feel as somebody that's a loved one that got hurt versus upholding the law in so many ways.
Yeah, he. Well, first of all, that's what I love about this character. He's a tortured soul. Hate to be cliche. He has to deal with some demons from his past. He's trying to redeem himself, and he's he's a little rough around the edges, a little old school cop who doesn't mind, bending that line for the greater good. And but he's also, he's on a mission because it's very personal. I can't reveal too much about why that is, but it's a very personal case for my character. And how did I get this film? It's a great story. I want to be quick because I know we don't have too much time, but I shot a show called Deputy in Albuquerque for like 8 months, and I met Vincent McDaniel, who was working craft service, helping craft service, and we got to know each other. He's like, hey, this is what I do for a living. I'm a writer, producer, and we're going to make a movie together. Sure enough, 3 years down the line, or maybe that's 4 years ago, this came about. It was an automatic yes. I read the script, and I wanted to play Detective Ortega. So I shaved my head, dyed it red, and then I was an Irish-Mexican homicide detective.
Yeah, you played all different roles for sure. And I guess the biggest challenge of playing this role, what do you think it was?
The biggest challenge? That's a great question. I mean, the biggest challenge for this role, gosh, it was just, there was a lot of different challenges. Filming this, we had a lot of challenges shooting this film. We had to overcome a couple obstacles that we recovered nicely, and the movie turned out great. Biggest challenge is trying to get some sleep because I couldn't, I lived with this character in this story 24/7. And I just became obsessed with it, so I couldn't shake it when I would go home from the set. But the challenge was trying to separate myself from work and personal life. Thank God I was.
That's crazy. That's kind of, you're being like your character in so many ways. Work and personal life. So how do you do that as a character? You really live that character when not. I mean, in the head. In the head. That's what I mean. You, for me anyway, sometimes it's hard to stop thinking about, the character or the story or what I want to do what do I want to bring to this character? How do I want to convey this message? And overall, how I wanted to, how you become a little obsessed, at least I do, become a little obsessed or possessed with the human condition of a character, and sometimes it just kind of overwhelms you. So like, you basically, once you play that part, you're not playing the part for real, but you're living it in your head, and when you get on set, you have to really become that character.
Hopefully.
And that's the challenge. That's probably the challenge of any actor. And then after, to calm yourself down after shooting, because you don't just do it one shot. You do that same shot over and over again sometimes. Right.
Sometimes I got to say, on this one, we had 1 or 2 takes max. We were on a budget, and a time budget, and a financial budget, but we didn't have that luxury. But still, it was, you always think, or at least I do, of like what you could have either done better, or what can you do to what more can you bring to this canvas, as we say.
All right. So let's get your take on the premise of the story. without giving things away? Let's hear you on this.
Yeah, we have to be careful with my words. Let me just say it's a your traditional crime thriller murder mystery that's loosely based and inspired by real events, about my character, Mel Gibson's character, in 50s, and Nora's. We're a team that's trying to hunt down a serial killer, and there's lots of different twists and turns, and it's very entertaining, and it's just a traditional crime thriller that's inspired by real crime events.
Yeah, and that's, you nailed it. No, I like that. But I mean, of that event, and I think that what you brought to the table, especially Mel brought to the table, was the history of serial killers, and it's really interesting to look and get inside their heads in so many ways, because it's so popular, but yet we don't know. And in the story, you're going to find out you don't know who could be the killer. That's the real scary part. It could be someone right down the street that you just think is a normal person, yet is a serial killer. That's scary.
Well, that's what they say. That is one thing you learn, and that's what they say. It's not necessarily look like a monster. It could be your good friend next door, or your neighbor, or some average person. It could be any one of us. It doesn't have it doesn't necessarily have to be a monster or look like somebody. It's you just never know. Somebody leading a totally normal life. You just never know, and I think that's what's so chilling about the reality of that. And this film, it's disturbing. Yet people find it entertaining. It's like it's got a very Dateline ID channel kind of.
I absolutely feel that. Yeah. And then the storylines to really understand what was happening in that time period in New Mexico and what was going on and how people got away with specific things. And then it really it's chilling to understand how many uncovered crimes have never been solved as a police officer and different things. And I think when you talk about your character, living that character, you had to live the skeletons of that character's life. And I don't know how you do that. Play the role so well that it looks like you're dealing with all these demons. And that's where I guess the exhaustion comes, to live that character, really feel that you're that character and you're living all these demons, and all the characters were living these demons throughout the process. You just didn't know what was going to happen next. And then again, the ending, that shocked everyone, and people got to go check it out. That's at the end of the day, that's it. July 5th, it's in theaters, and people need to check it out for sure. And anything else, what do you think you want people to get most out of the film? What is your thought?
Well, I just want them to be entertained for the 2 hours that they're there, and to in a bigger picture, hopefully this could bring more awareness to some of these unsolved cases that we have out there, and also the human trafficking. It could bring awareness to that, and to just and hopefully it'll help bring more awareness to these situations and issues that need attention.
Mike, thanks for stopping by. We have Costas Mandylor. Costas, can't wait to talk to you again. And now, you're in the United States. Is there a sighting of Costas?
Well, there is in the desert somewhere when I pop out and try and say hi to the locals. I live in Europe now, but when I come back, I get a kick out of visiting our wonderful states, and Arizona is one of them.
And Costas has been also looking at, who I was going to say, Conor McGregor. He looks a little bit like Conor McGregor now too, right?
Well, Conor just became a movie star. I guess he did Roadhouse or something like that.
Yeah, but he looked like he put on 30 pounds for that movie. Mike, would you agree?
Yeah. I didn't see the movie. I didn't see Roadhouse, but
I know you saw Costas, right?
I haven't seen it. I think
he's a lot bigger. He's a lot bigger than he was as a UFC fighter. Like really more stocky, bigger for sure. So
he's a physical specimen.
So what projects do you have going on that you can't speak about, or what about stuff going on that's out right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky enough to have scored a couple of jobs recently, and one of them is sort of like a Liam Neeson-esque Taken
Oh, wow.
kind of script where somebody has to do the miracle of saving a kid, and I'm all about saving innocence. So it'll be a journey and a half to pull it off and not be boring. And there's a little thing that I'm going to do as a presentation here in Arizona with your friend. And I can't really say much about Saw, but the franchise is reignited, and apparently they're going to be calling me. You know, I've been lucky enough to go to these Comic Cons where you meet a lot of the fans, and fans of certain franchises are just so dedicated, whether it's Saw or Lord of the Rings. What's the other famous one? Star Trek. I mean, fans
Yeah.
are loyal, and sometimes they know more than you do about what's coming up.
Little House on the
And,
Prairie. Little House on the Prairie is another one, Costas.
That's another one. I remember that one. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I actually worked with
that
Melissa
was-
Gilbert when she grew up.
Yeah.
Do you remember Melissa Gilbert?
Yeah. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was the little. She was the little girl on it.
Yeah. All right. So what stuff's out right now? People can watch, Costas, of you.
I'm really not sure when anything's been released because of the strike. I think we spoke around strike time, and I don't know what's out there. But if they look up my name and whoever's interested, they'll find movies that are streaming. Because I really don't know. The world's changed, you know, and I'm not in touch with everything that goes on. Usually, you do a movie, it comes out, people know it's coming out. Now, a lot of the times you do movies and they stream them and they release them
Right.
in different ways, and people, stumble onto them or find them. So
I was
It's just
interviewing.
stuff
I interviewed people for Boneyard that's coming out in theaters on July 5th with Mel Gibson and 50 Cent. Didn't get to
Right.
interview Mel or 50, but I interviewed a lot of the actors, and it's a really good film. Can't say anything about it because embargo till July 1st, so you guys gotta wait. But it was it was intriguing. It's all about basically the murders in 2009 in New Mexico. That basically,
right.
yeah, that was really sad. But I was checking that out. All right, so Mike, what questions do you have for Costas? What are you guys going to do when you hang out together in Florida?
Well, we always have a great time when we hang out in Florida, but this time Costas is going to bring his wife and kids, so we'll be doing a lot of family type stuff. You know?
Yep. Eat some good steaks and rejoice in the beautiful weather. By the way, can I throw this at you guys? Mentioning Mel Gibson, who I love as a performer, and obviously Braveheart's one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
But you know, I actually did a movie that I forgot about, as you asked me, and I think I should talk about it. Mel Gibson was going to do a movie called Gunslinger,
Yes.
an old style Western. He had to drop out of it for some reason, and they got Nicolas Cage to replace him in another type of role. And the producers had a chinwag, and they invited me to play the role that Mel Gibson was going to play. Now, obviously, I've got to fill some pretty special shoes because Mel's fantastic. But I got to play the role that he was going to play, and I channeled him as best as I could and kept it, you know, as real as I could. And I got to work with Nicolas Cage, who's eccentric and wild and funny. I mean, I didn't know how to play the scenes with him because I was enjoying his madness, because he's kind of off kilter and he's all around, you know, he's an ex-drunk and a gunslinger. He's all trying to get, and he was doing all this shit. And I'm thinking, well, he's a risk taker. I'm just going to enjoy it. So I just enjoyed him on screen as much as I could. But I ended up doing the role that Mel was going to do, and I was quite proud to try to do my best with it, because Mel is a special actor, right?
Oh, he truly is.
Oh,
He
he
did
is.
an amazing job in this last movie for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us the premise of Saw.
Ultimately, when I first was invited to do it, I had to work out why was it so successful. It was very original. It hit the crowds around America and the world like a ton of bricks, and it became a huge franchise. Basically, I heard some reporters, and I'm not really a fan of the reporters that want to put movies down and stuff like that, but it's their opinion if they don't like stuff. But they kind of called it violence porn and stuff like that because it's pretty violent. But in the end, when you get to the nitty gritty of the main character, something terrible happens to him, and he decides to hold people accountable that do terrible things. So it's sort of like a redemption towards the bad guys of the world. Like if you were to kidnap children and chop their arms off,
Yeah.
right? Then this guy finds you with his little helper, which is me, Detective Hoffman,
Right.
and this other character that's a woman called Shawnee Smith. Now we find these people and we put them in traps. Now, if you tore a kid's arms off, are you willing to tear your own off to get out of the trap before you die?
Oh my God.
So people are put in positions to face their maker and their own demons. So that's where it becomes pretty clever and pretty cat and mouse as far as who gets it, when they get it, who do you catch? What do they do? How far is somebody willing to go? Like a pervert once was perverting on women, and then he was found in a trap where he had a minute to tear his own eye out before his head explodes, and he didn't do it. But it's like, how far are you willing to go? If you're willing to hurt people, how far are you willing to hurt yourself to live?
Totally.
That's the best way I can
All
explain
right.
it.
Now I'm going to go to a show that where we always talk about picket fences when you come on the show, but now we're going to talk about Players. You had a main
Right.
role, 18 episodes. Tell us about Players back in 1997, 98. I'm pulling it
Players-
up right now. Yeah.
That's right. Dude, it was probably the most enjoyable job in show business I ever had. I got on extremely well with Ice-T.
That's right.
And the other
yeah.
character was the actor. The other name was Frank Johnny Hughes, who's become quite a prolific writer in Hollywood now. Anyway, we were a threesome that worked with Dick Wolf and all of his team, and it was an incredible experience on the Universal lot for a full year. And it was going to get picked up, but Dick Wolf apologized to us when it wasn't picked up. He apologized that he took it out of New York and brought it to LA. Because the first episode, the pilot, was gritty. It was a wonderful show to watch, but New York is a different animal to shoot in, and he thought he made a mistake by bringing it to LA. Nevertheless, it's
Yeah.
one of the jobs I'll never forget.
All right, we're going to call out Dick Wolf right now. That Costas Mandalore needs to be in one of new Dick Wolf's shows. So,
Well, you know what? Ice-T said the same thing. He says, "You're part of the Dick Wolf family. Call him up." I'll tell you an interesting story about Ice-T. When we were talking recently, he said we had done the show and he hadn't seen or heard from Dick in about a year or two. And one day he walks into a fried chicken place somewhere in LA, and Dick Wolf walked in, and he goes, "Ice, what are you doing?" He goes, "Getting myself some fried chicken." "Dick, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm going to try some too." They hugged and they said goodbye. 2 days later, he gets a phone call from the Dick Wolf office saying, "Can you do a couple of episodes of SUV for me?" And Ice-T goes, "You know what? I don't watch the show. I'm not going to, I don't want to do it." Well, weeks later, he gets a phone call. "Listen, just come and do this thing for a season." 22 years later, he's living in a beautiful mansion in Jersey. And you never know what's going to happen when you walk into a chicken joint. So that's the luck of Hollywood.
So
Just by
why
walking into that
don't
place
you
that day-
call if Ice-T told you a couple days ago or weeks ago to call Dick Wolf, call Dick Wolf.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call Dick Wolf, who, by the way, who, by the way, I must tell you this. He's my favorite producer of all time, apart from David Kelly. But one day he was walking by my brand new car that I bought during the show, and he walks by with some like 6, 7 executives. And they walked by me, and I said something to him, and I pulled out a knife. And I said, "I'm talking to you, Wolf." And he turns around, and all these executives are like, "What the hell's going on here?" He turns around, reaches into his pant boot, pulls out a knife 3 times bigger than mine. And I said, "You're my greatest boss ever." I love the guy.
All right, I got a great episode he was in. Are you a fan, Mike Velarde, of Sex in the City?
I haven't seen that show in 20 years.
Okay, he played Friar Boop. That was it. Friar F. You know?
Fire.
And yeah, that was, and it was called The Agony and Ecstasy. Tell us about your character.
Yeah. Well, let's start by saying that it was a wonderful experience. The show was the biggest show in the world at the time,
Yeah.
and all I remember was I remember when the actual movie came out. Remember the end? The show ended, and they had a big movie, and it was premiering all over the country.
Yeah.
And I remember being in a limousine with a guy that represented me in some ways, with SOAR and whatnot. He gets a phone call from somebody, and they go, "Where are you?" "We're looking for Coach Mandalore." He says, "I'm in a limousine in New York City." They go, "Oh, that's great. We're going to give him a certain amount of money to show the cinema."
What happened?
He cut out for a second. Okay. Well, so that's so far such a great interview.
Yeah.
And then Costas goes out, but okay, he's coming back now.
He's coming back.
And you know what? So Mike's already going to watch that. I'll let you know what episode it was when he played Friar. Fuck.
Okay.
The agony and ecstasy.
Yeah. Can I just,
You got cut out. So tell us more about it.
have I got you live now?
Yeah.
All right. So I end up going to a cinema. There must have been like 2,000 people in this cinema. And I get there and they say, well, we're going to surprise the audience. Right. And I'll never forget it. They said my name, Friar Beep. I went to the middle of the room.
Yeah.
They gave me a microphone. Yeah. And I got a standing ovation like I was Elvis Presley. It was unbelievable. It had the section of all the women going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it had the section of all the gay guys going, oh my God, Friar's here. And I looked at everybody. I said, I didn't know what to say. I only did one episode, so I was kind of embarrassed with this beautiful, warm welcome. But I turned around and I go, I mean, they were screaming my name and clapping, and I go, that's a wonderful, warm welcome for the only guy that never got laid on the show. I never got laid. You know that, right? I think I'm the only
and also
that never got laid.
you did not get a call for Magic Mike after that.
I did not. That was years later, though. The Magic
Yeah,
Mike
maybe you'll be the
younger,
next
you know?
Magic Mike. All right, so now we're going to go to another show that everyone knows about, Seventh Heaven. You play Bo Brewer for a recurring role for 5 episodes on Seventh Heaven.
That's true. Yeah. Wow, you got quite a little encyclopedia there.
I'm on Wikipedia.
That show was a tongue monster, and I just tried to fit it. You're good. You're good. I all I remember was they used to give me mouthfuls of dialogue to say. And I was like, oh man, how am I going to get through this? And everybody was very kind. And I had a good time. But it's sort of when you visit shows, you don't feel like you quite belong like you do on your own show.
No,
so
totally.
I got to visit that place, and it was it was great. People were welcoming, you know.
So I see he was on NCIS for an episode. So Dick Wolf, NCIS Los Angeles as well. I'm going to keep saying, or is NCIS Dick Wolf too?
No, Dick Wolf is not NCIS. It's a different animal altogether. But I did 2 episodes of each one of them, except for the New Orleans one. But that was great because I went on a little hiatus when I went a little crazy in Hollywood, living in hotels and partying with the best of them.
Okay.
And then when I got my shit back together, I ended up earning jobs again. And I must tell you, there's nothing like earning a job in Hollywood. You know, when you have to do a screen test or walk into a room of 25 people and prove yourself, it feels good.
All right.
I mean,
so
it's nice.
Yeah. So we go to your filmography now of the movies. You were in Mobsters as Frank Costello. Let's hear your Italian accent.
I have a story about that one. He didn't have an Italian accent. He had a slight little gruff. Lucky Luciano had more of an accent than Frank.
Okay.
If you ever see the hearings when he was in front of the what do you call them? The guys that were after the mob. Who was it? The FBI. Cafava? Was it Cafava or one of these guys? Anyway, you hear him speak. He had a little bit of a broken voice, but he sounded like a New Yorker. And the funny thing is, with that movie, I think every actor in Hollywood went up for one of those roles. There's the 4 main roles, right? And I remember getting the role of Bugsy Siegel. I got it. And I loved it because I knew I was right for the role, and I knew about Bugsy. I'd read everything about him. And then in the end, they gave me Frank Costello.
Okay. So, and we were going back through it. It seems like he was, then you look at his filmography later as he's coming back. We'll continue.
It's the iPhone he has, I think.
Sorry about that.
Look,
in the end, I got Frank Costello. I turned it down. And everybody said I had to go back in again.
At least we got a little some good parts of him about Friar Fuck. So go figure. Only on the Mike Velarde show.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, he's done a lot of work, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. He totally has, but he's starting to
I'll write
cut
a
it
book
back
one day.
more.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. So if we look at, some of the movies, Saw X, you played Mark Hoffman. You were in multiple Saws, and it's kind of weird. It took years to go back to Saw, it looks like. Saw.
Well, they went on a little hiatus.
Yeah, a
Sorry,
little
go ahead.
hiatus. Yeah, a long hiatus.
Well, they did 2 other movies. One with Sam Jackson and Chris Rock, and I don't know if it really worked. They did another one that was a prequel. I don't know if it really worked. So they came up with a script, and apparently it's the best reviewed script out of all of them, apart from the first one. And I did a little cameo in the first one, and I wasn't supposed to tell anybody. But after it came out, and it became a smash hit with the third generation, it's revived the whole thing. And I meet a lot of fans across the seas when I go to these Comic-Cons, and they all tell me, when you came on the screen, the theater went nuts. So I figured I've got a couple more movies in me in the future. Because when the fans tell you that kind of shit, when the cinema erupts, the producers find out. So hopefully I'll be joining them again this year.
Yeah. So let's think of some of the shows. Are there current streaming shows you want to be on? Cost
Anything to do with Vikings would be great. Anything to do with what do you call it? The Game of Thrones? They've got that new show now. I think it's going in for its 2nd season. I haven't had a chance to meet them yet, but things like that. I don't want to wear a suit anymore. I want to wear some Viking rags so I'm comfortable every day.
Got it. All right. So, Mike, what is your favorite of Costas?
So Costas, when is Gunslingers going to hit the theaters? When could we go see that? I'm really looking forward to that movie because you're in it, Billy's in it, Nicolas Cage. I mean, you got some really good people.
Cage, Stephen Dorff. Yeah, it's a real kind of Hollywood Western, Look, I think it's going to be towards the end of the year. Let's say September, October. That's my guess.
Okay. Now, looking at any other favorite shows, it looks like, okay, so you playing in Beowulf. So that was a pretty interesting thing. You played Han.
Oh, my God.
Honshu.
Yeah. Look, obviously that book is the oldest book in the world or something like that. And I didn't know much about it, but the great Robert Zemeckis invited me to play.
Oh, wow.
I went and read, and all of a sudden I'm standing in front of Sir Anthony Hopkins, John Malkovich, Ray Winstone, the famous English terrific actor, terrific human being. And of course, what's his name? Glenn, what's his name? Is Mel Gibson's best friend in Braveheart. His name's escaping me right now. The wonderful Irish actor. Anyway, we were together as a troupe for about 10 weeks, and Anthony Hopkins is one of the funniest and fidgety little boy storytellers you've ever met. One time he was telling us his great stories, and it's Malkovich and all these other legends from England. And at one point he looks and he goes, "Oh, am I talking too much? I can stop now." And they go, No, keep going. He had the greatest stories, and he was hysterical. He was like a big, happy kid, Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Neil,
great company.
What is the code? I'm trying to get Brendan Kelly on the show, and it says he's having problems. It's asking for a medium ID number. What's your ID?
Okay, all right. Well, we're live here, and I'll tell everyone in the building. 817-745-4609. There's no median code.
817 what?
745-4609. Anyone can join right now as we're live with Costas Mandylor and Mike Velarde on the Mike Velarde Show.
Yes.
Saints and Sinners and Saints. He played Raymond Crowe.
Yes, sir.
Also known as a bad cop. Bad cop.
Yes. Nasty person. Wonderful role to play. My nemesis was a guy called Johnny Strong, a fitness fanatic. Loved him. And I got to, show off and be bad in New Orleans, which was a wild place to shoot in.
Ooh.
Let me tell you, making a movie in New Orleans, it's like it's a movie within a movie. You know what I'm saying? Great place.
I really like Your Honor that just came out on Netflix and with Showtime, I think, before. Your Honor is really, really good as well. Are you streaming anything you're watching right now, Costas, that you stream to watch?
I really, not whatever I catch. I'll be honest, I just saw the Elvis movie on the plane. I tend to watch more movies on the plane because I can't sleep. I enjoyed the Elvis film. I can't really. I don't chase anything. When I find stuff, I find it. I'm just looking for some interesting shows that are coming up. Like I haven't seen Gomorrah, but there's a guy that I was going to be in a film with, and unfortunately, politics kicked me out of the movie, and it was really about the union. But there's a movie coming out called Den of Thieves 2. Did you see the first one?
Oh, yeah.
50 Cent was in that one. And basically Gerard Butler starring in it. And it was a big smash hit. I almost did the second one. It's called Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. I spoke to the director, who was very loyal to me and almost had me in the film. But I asked him painfully, what is it like? And he said, it's unbelievable. So whoever's watching, you got to see Den of Thieves 2 with the great Jerry Butler. And I recommend that to you.
Okay.
Wow,
Yeah, Mike,
that would be great.
One
Gary
other question, because
Butler,
we
good
are
job.
almost out of time. This person, whoever has to come on, better figure out technology.
I'm trying to get Brendan on. Because I know I would be cool having both of you guys on. It's invalid email or password. I don't know. So he's having a problem.
I can join him next time, and I'll sit in the back and just make
he's
commentary once in a while.
And it says B. Kelly, so it's not David E. Kelly.
No, that's him. That's
No.
him. That's Brendan. That's
Yeah,
Brendan.
Brendan's here. I'm just saying it's not David E. Kelly.
Not
Yeah,
David E.
Brendan.
Kelly.
That's great. I love
call
that.
him up too.
That's terrific. Could Brendan hear us?
Brendan.
That's great.
Can you guys hear Michael? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we hear you, Brendan.
Is my friend Costas on the line?
Yes, he is.
It doesn't matter if you're not dead, son.
I love you. I love you, Costas. I love you.
I love you back. Now, listen here, everybody. Now, this Brendan Kelly's a great storyteller himself. So you're gonna ask him something before we run
I'll
out of
tell you
time.
why I'm a great story is because I do what Oscar Wilde once said. No decent Irishman would ever dare let the truth get in the way of a good story.
That's it.
What's going on, guys?
We're just talking about all of Costas' movies and TV shows. What's
Well,
your
I like
favorite?
this-
What's your favorite?
I would say Bangkok Girly Boys, his first movie. Wait,
You know, he
Yeah.
wanted to play Friar Fuck, but it just didn't happen.
no, he was the fluffer.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If I did that movie in this stage of life, in the
You'd be
late
huge.
20s,
You'd be
it'd be huge right now. Huge.
Let me tell you something. Costas is one of the greatest because you can't, no matter what, you can't offend him. It's impossible. Because no matter what you say, he'll just say, "But I love you."
You know what? I've learned not to take anything personally because it doesn't fucking matter. Whoever loves you, loves you. Whoever doesn't, okay.
All right. All right. So, Mike, any other questions before we're almost saying goodbye?
No, listen, I love both these guys. They're both great. Costas introduced me to Brendan, and Brendan's done a lot himself. I mean, he was in that Con Air with Nicolas Cage, and he's done a whole bunch of movies. He's a writer, script writer, another great
So
guy.
what's
I love these
what's
two guys.
news? What's news with you, Brendan? Before we let you go,
Gosh, what was my newsworthy with me? Well, I would like to. I'm trying to get this movie I've been doing for 4 decades ago. I started working on it. It's a movie about the West Side Irish gang called, they're known as the Westies, Jimmy Coonan and Mickey Featherstone, and I was friends with Jimmy Coonan, and I've been trying to get this thing done, and I've got a really phenomenal script, and I'm working on the POC right now. It's called a proof of concept. They used to call them sizzle reels, and it's like an introduction to the world of the Westies, and I use different films to put this thing together. I have an editor that's phenomenal, and so
how did Mike meet you, Brendan?
Mike? Oh, Mike. He met me through Costas,
Okay.
and I met Costas a couple of times, but the second time I met him was at a friend's funeral, a mutual friend's funeral, and I in memory of our old friend, I celebrated that night correctly. and Costas was right there with me. And Costas
It was a
right there with
Viking
me.
night.
Costas was right there with me.
Oh my goodness! All right,
And I
well,
was-
guys. I
You know
mean,
what?
this is a holiday. Costas is shooting a bunch of stuff. Brendan, do you have any projects you can't talk about?
Oh yeah, gosh! If I told my story, I'd be incarcerated right away.
Got it, got it.
That'd,
All right, Mike,
that'd be the end of it. But the night I met Costas, Costas, tell him what I was doing 20 minutes after we got to that place.
I think we were drinking red wine. I think it was Opus One out of the bottle, and I think that he had a gigantic bone with a piece of meat on the end of it. Yeah, and he was eating that in a 5-star restaurant, but we weren't doing it with all the delicacies. We were doing it with our hands and bottles. So Vikings live.
All right.
Vikings lived, and I
So
think
Brett-
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Brendan. Sorry, go.
No, it was a great night. It was a fabulous night. It was the way our friend Stephanos, the late great Stephanos, would want to be remembered.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, Brendan. Best place
One
people
great
can
guy
find it.
died for us together.
Yeah, where can we find info on your movie, the movie you were trying to get out and stuff like that, Brendan? Do you have a?
It's called Occupation Gangster, and I'm working on getting this thing did one way or the other. I'm going to get it done. And I just saw actually a film from Ireland called Good Vibrations. I don't know when it was made, but it was about punk rock in Belfast in the 70s. How kind of he said New York has the this and London has the pants, but we have the reason for punk rock. And I thought that film was so good in the way they intertwined stock footage into the movie, and it gave me some great ideas on how I'm gonna make this film. And I want to make it very authentic and true to what these guys had come
All
from.
right.
And
All right. What roles Costas going to play in your movie when you get it made?
Costas could play whatever the fuck he wants. How about that? Costas could do whatever he wants. Costas could do
We'll find the place. You know what? The thing is, for me personally, when you do these bio-type pics where people have really lived and everybody knows who they are, you've got to get people that look like them. You've got to get actors that can handle the role. And I love it when people look like their characters. So if something fits, we'll do it. I just want him to get it made because I read it and it's brilliant. And you know what? There are still wonderful things to be made. And, thank God for movie magic. That's all I can say.
I'm glad to be here with Hank Hanegraaff. Hank, you are a legend in your own time, I think is what it is. You are the Bible answer man. You've done so much in your lifetime and you continue to do so much. And now your book has gotten this revision and you've got other things going. And I am just so thrilled to be here with you. Welcome to the show, Hank.
Well, that's quite an introduction. It's really nice to be with you, Neil.
Great. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Yeah. So Hank, this is where I want to start. So you're the Bible answer man. And personally, I read the Bible and you know how you read a verse and you get something different out of it than when you read it 10 years ago or 5 years ago or last week. And it's just this evolving thing, right? And so how do you become the Bible answer man to be able to answer the multitude of, I don't even know how many millions of questions people would have packed into the Bible?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Neil. Actually, our ministry was founded in 1960 by a man named Dr. Walter Martin. And he was known as the Bible Answer Man because he founded not only the organization, but the radio broadcast. And the radio broadcast was called the Bible Answer Man broadcast. So when I became president of the Christian Research Institute, I became host of the Bible Answer Man broadcast. So I always make that distinction. People say, you're the Bible Answer Man. I say, no, I'm the host of a broadcast called the Bible Answer Man broadcast. A subtle distinction. But, one of the things that you learn over time is that knowledge is progressive. So for many years, people would ask me questions. I'd say, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll research and return. So the next time I'm asked that question, I do have a compelling answer to the question. So over the years, and I've almost done this broadcast for 40 years, I've continued to learn a lot. But to your other point about the Bible being alive and dynamic and active, that's such a brilliant point, because it is true that you never come to the Bible as the same person, because you're constantly in a state of change. You're growing, you're developing, you're learning, you're changing, your experiences are different. So yeah, the Bible is alive and dynamic. It is a reliable resource for faith and practice.
Yeah, so true. And it's amazing to me because there are so many books out there, multitudes of books out there, but there is nothing like the Bible. There just isn't anything like it. And I look at my own faith journey and I think about, sometimes I think, Hank, there should be a book on not just how to raise a toddler or an adolescent, but how to get through your 20s and maybe how to get through your 30s, right? How to get through your 40s. And I think about what I believed or where my faith journey was in my 20s compared to my 30s, compared to my 40s, compared to my 50s. It is evolving and changing. And I think part of the whole thing is giving people the grace maybe to let themselves evolve and change. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a very insightful point. A truth doesn't change. But we're constantly changing and growing. And the very fact that this book is called the Complete Bible Answer Book, Collector's Edition, Revised and Expanded, there are revisions that take place over time where you say, I could have sharpened the answer to that question, or maybe in some cases I have a different perspective. I want to view the answer to that question through a different lens. So yeah, we're growing and developing and learning. That's part of the Christian process. I mean, that's what happens when you go into a gym. You develop. When you get a gym membership, you don't suddenly become strong. You become strong by actually using that membership. And the same thing is true within the Christian church. When we're in the sacramental liturgical life of the church, we grow and we develop and we expand from one glory to another. I mean, that's the beauty of the Christian life. We always continue to go from one glory to another. And that's true not only in this life, but it is in the life to come. In eternity, we will learn and grow and develop, albeit without error. But we will continue developing because God is ineffable and we can never come to an end of knowing someone who is completely unknowable, beyond our wildest imagination. So that will be an ongoing development from one glory to another, even in eternity.
Mm. I love your perspective. I love what you're having to say. There's a couple of great points that you made. One has to do with perspective and perspective changing and evolving, but also that we're kind of allowed to change and evolve, and probably encouraged to even to change and evolve with life circumstances, with life experience, because I always kind of think, Hank, I don't know about you, but I always kind of feel like the more I know, the less I know. And it's like the more I know about God, the bigger I realize he is and how God can't be put in a box. And so it's how do you deal with people coming from different positions or different angles or different experiences than what you do when you answer questions?
Yeah, I think one of the things we are commanded to do is to always be ready to give an answer, a reason for the hope that lies within you. But then this caveat, we need to do it with gentleness and with respect. And I think this is the way in which we interact with people that don't know Christ, that do not have a grounding in the Christian faith. We don't answer them in a bullish manner, but rather in a gentle, compelling fashion, with gentleness and with respect. And you know, I often think I have been privileged beyond measure to be able to work in an institute where I have the latitude to research and return. So I learn some things that other people don't have the opportunity to learn. I can use that in a proud way, or I can use that in a humble way and say, thank God that He's given me the opportunity to learn these things in this particular context. And now I'm responsible to God to use that in a way that's edifying and glorifying to Him rather than in a proud, audacious fashion.
Wow, if only the whole world could feel like that, right? I mean, because I think so often there can be an arrogance that can go along with faith. You know, like you and I, we've been in the church forever, right? Like I don't remember a time that I wasn't just wrapped up in Jesus and just in love with my walk and wanting more of God. And you're the same way. And but people are at different points in life and at different positions in life. And so being gentle, I love the word. That is so great. To learn how to be gentle with your responses is so important. I love that. That's genius.
Then the last question, Kim, is a love question because we are close to running out of time. Go ahead with that question.
Okay, yeah. So Hank, I did this thing. I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love because, you know, John says that God is love. And I figured, you know, the whole WWJD, what would Jesus do? People answer that question different ways depending on who you believe Jesus is. But love is universal. And God is love. Not that He loves, but that He is love. And so I did this deep dive and I used 1 Corinthians 13 as my roadmap, you know, and took one word or phrase a month to figure out what is love that is patient, what is love that is kind, and things I found out blew my mind. And so love, I feel like, is something that maybe in my experience hasn't been talked about enough within the church. And yet it's everything because it's what God is. Where do you see love playing a role in your work and in where you think the church should be going?
Yeah, we are supposed to model our lives after Jesus Christ, who you correctly indicate is the very personification of love. And I love the fact that you also pointed to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is the quintessential passage on love. And it gives us not only what love is, but also what love does. So it not only defines love in the context of the one who is the personification of love, but then it gives us the template of how we are to conduct ourselves in relationship to the world in which He has placed us, most prominently with the people that He has given us to love.
Excellent. Yes, so true. So true.
Right. Where's the best place we can find information on you? Where can we go, sir?
So, you know, by the way, the Complete Bible Answer book is available on the web at equip.org, and it's always available in bookstores everywhere as well.
Right. Well, fantastic. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is podcast, guys. Take care.